Hola, hola a todos los que nos pueden ver desde este momento en YouTube. Estábamos teniendo unas pequeñas fallas técnicas, pero bueno, ya estamos listos para comenzar. Vamos a comenzar a dar acceso. Desgraciadamente no vamos a poder transmitir el día de hoy a Facebook. Tuvimos un problema con la conexión a Facebook, pero vamos a transmitir directamente desde YouTube y este video se mantendrá grabado en YouTube y luego lo compartiremos en Facebook, ¿ok? Vamos a dar la bienvenida. Como les habíamos comentado en Instagram, esta transmisión será vista solo, más bien se hará en inglés, entonces esperamos que todos puedan verla y puedan entenderla, ¿vale? Entonces voy a dar acceso a Taylor.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening, Taylor. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Good too. Nice to have you here.
I appreciate it.
All the way around, please. Thank you for being here. We are so happy to have you. And what we're going to start with a little bit of, I will introduce you so everybody can know more about you, and I will like to thank for that. So, first, for the people that don't know about Taylor, he is the president and chief creative officer at Legacy Entertainment, a company that is considered #1 source for the design and realization of successful theme parks throughout the world. Taylor has guided into reality many of Legacy's signature attractions like Insomniac's Electric Daisy Carnival in Las Vegas, Six Flags or Hershey's, just to name a few. Some great examples of their projects in Mexico are the Magic Light Parade at Six Flags Mexico, as well as the Cirque du Soleil theme park resort once planned for Puerto Vallarta. Thank you so much, Taylor, for being here with us and for talking a bit about your work and the Legacy Entertainment project. Are you ready to start now?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's begin.
Yeah, great. So you started working for companies like Walt Disney and Universal Studios Shanghai. Can you tell us a little bit more about your career? What was your first job and how did you end up working at Legacy Entertainment?
Yes, an interesting story. So let me give you the very quick version so we can get into the fun stuff. So the quick version is I grew up in a place called Orange County, California, which is also home to Disneyland, which I still believe, after having traveled the entire world, Disneyland in California is the world's best theme park. So I grew up going to Disneyland all the time, and I wanted to work there as soon as I could. So as soon as I was 15 years old, I actually found a secret way in to working there that I could work for high school credits instead of for money. So I did that, and I worked at the Walt Disney Company, and tried a few different roles there. I was going to school full time, and I was also a huge fan of a guy named Gary Goddard, who ran the company Gary Goddard Entertainment, industry legend. I was a huge fan of his, still am, and I had reached out to him, when I was very young, saying, hey, I want to be part of the industry someday. Can you give me some advice on what to do, what to study, the kinds of things, and we'll talk more about all that later. And he gave me some great advice. And then, he had a big company before Gary Goddard Entertainment called Landmark Entertainment Group, which was very prominent in the 1990s. And in the wake of September 11th, we're talking right around, I was working at Disney around 2002, 2003 at this point. So in the wake of 9/11, the industry had basically, the themed entertainment industry that is, had basically collapsed and was almost non-existent for a few years. So Landmark ceased to exist. Gary went back to his roots and opened up a small consultancy. And I made him an offer in 2002. I said, I will, he was going to have a booth at IAAPA, which is the big industry conference that happens every year in Orlando in November. And he was just starting out his company, didn't have a lot of money. So, I was very young, and I said, I will fly myself to Orlando. I will work for free. Just pay for the hotel room and I'll be there. And he took me up on the offer. And it went well enough that after that, I came to work, and, it was just basically me and Gary in an office. I was answering the phones, an accountant would come in. So it was very, very basic, very ground floor. And we were doing just some small jobs, we were doing the Georgia Aquarium, some consulting on that and designing on that. Some things for Hershey that you mentioned in Pennsylvania, the factory tour ride.
Mm-hmm.
But then, things started to get really crazy in 2006 when we were hired to design the Galaxy Resort in Macau, which was our first big kind of calling card project in Asia. And I'll show you in the audience some samples of that in our other work. But that really is what launched our company's focus and ultimate, for lack of a better term, dominance in Asia, which continues to be our most important market. Galaxy finally opened in 2011, and ever since then, probably 80 to 90% of our work has been in Asia. And every once in a while, we're very lucky to work on a project somewhere like Mexico or America. But frankly, it doesn't happen very often. So, Magic Light Parade at Six Flags Mexico is one of the very few instances where we were able to work in North America. So that kind of brings us up to, I guess, Legacy Entertainment. Would it be a good time to introduce that company and some of its projects?
Yeah, great.
Now, I know we were having some technical issues with the screen sharing.
Okay.
I asked you to launch the PowerPoint, and again, sorry for the tech issues.
Yeah, no problem. Okay.
So I prepared a special presentation to show everyone tonight before we do, some questions and answers. I really love talking about the themed entertainment industry, which is also entertainment design. It's also sometimes called location-based entertainment. There's something really fun that doesn't get talked about too often. A lot of people know that if you want to go into entertainment, there are schools to go into film, there are schools to go into theater, into television, but no one really thinks about theme parks as a viable option and the many other things that come along with that. So I'm going to show you a very brief introduction on our company and tell you about the industry beyond our company. And then I brought some fun samples for everyone, some images that have never been seen before, both from the creation of Magic Light Parade at Six Flags Mexico, as well as one of the attractions we designed for the Cirque du Soleil park that once was planned for Puerto Vallarta. So does that all sound okay?
Yeah, great.
Perfect. All right. So again, Omar's going to be helping me out with the presentation. So quickly on this, so my company is called Legacy Entertainment. We are an entertainment design company, so we focus on anything having to do with entertainment. And in the world, there are probably really, there's a lot of companies that say they do what we do, but there's probably really 10 companies that do what we do. And some do it really well, some do it so-so. But it's a really fun, really exciting, very dynamic industry to work in. As you can see here, there's some samples of the different kinds of things we do. Sometimes it's themed hotels and resorts. Sometimes it's water parks. Sometimes it's dark rides. It's parades. So I'll show you samples of some of the fun things we've done. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, wonderful. So again, there's so many things encompassed by, this one here, perfect. There are so many things encompassed by entertainment design. But the main ones, as you can see here, theme parks, water parks, aquariums, zoos, resorts, casinos, live entertainment, dark rides, which is like an indoor ride where you go through scenes, not like an outdoor roller coaster. At Six Flags Mexico, Justice League is a great example of a dark ride. And then icons, which is kind of something that's developing now. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next one. So if you ever want to see this in more detail, all the stuff is on our website, legacyentertainment.com. But this is really interesting. So this is the lifespan of how a project exists all the way from the first day, from the idea, which is concept development, all the way through the opening. And I know it's impossible to read at this scale, but these are all things that would happen along the way. So first we start out with concept development, where we come up with the basic ideas. Then we get into master planning and figure out how it all lays out. Then project design and show production. Then the construction part, installation, programming, and opening. And a themed entertainment project on the short end, something like the Magic Light Parade happened very quickly, maybe too quickly, less than 6 months. And then other projects, a full theme park, can take 5 years or more, sometimes even 7 years. So again, I encourage you to go to our website and check this out in more detail. So let's go to the next one.
Okay.
These are some of the services that a company like ours offers, the different phases. Sometimes people will only hire us for the first part, which happens sometimes in China specifically. Of course, we prefer to take a project all the way through from beginning to end, like we did with the Magic Light Parade at Six Flags Mexico. All right, next slide. Again, I mentioned there are many companies that do what we do. what distinguishes legacy entertainment? This is kind of important. We have a different business model than some of our competitors. Our idea is to stay small and focus on quality. Some companies will have 100, 200 employees. That's not what we would do. Back in maybe 2010, we had a lot of employees, and we realized that it became very difficult to control the quality of the design when you're focusing on more than maybe 3 projects at a time. So now we really limit the number of projects we take on and really focus on the quality. So our goal is not to have, giant buildings filled with employees. Our goal is to have the best people in the industry focusing on every project that we take on. So that's kind of what makes us unique. All right, let's go to the next one. So here are some interesting projects that we've designed. This is Shanghai Haicheng Ocean Park in China. This is the main competitor for Shanghai Disney, although it was realized for about 15% of Disney's budget. So, but it opened about 2 years ago and has turned out quite nicely and has been successful as well. It's drawing over 3 million guests a year, which is fantastic. Let's go to the next one. This is a fun one. This is in the Chinese city of Harbin. This is an indoor water park resort called the Kingdom of Poseidon. Harbin is very famous for their ice festival, but this is the first kind of permanent year-round attraction in the city. Okay.
Okay.
This is another neat one. This is the Hongdian World Studio Shanghai Bund. This is also in China. Now, even though it looks like Shanghai, this is not Shanghai. This is a movie studio, kind of like Universal Studios, located a few hours outside of Shanghai, but it doubles as a movie studio for films and television shows that want to film in old Shanghai. And then it also works as a theme park. So in all those buildings are theme park attractions. So this opened a little over a year ago as well. Okay. If you've ever heard of Lotte World, you'll know this is Korea's #1 theme park. They do almost 8 million people a year sometimes,
Wow.
which is unheard of, outside of Disney, which is just spectacular, Disney and Universal. So we've been very lucky to be their design partner. We've opened 8 projects at their flagship park in Seoul, and I'll give you a preview of something we're doing for them now coming up. Okay. All right. I mentioned Galaxy Macau. This is a sample of a resort project that our company helped design. So Macau is the Las Vegas of Asia. So in fact, you'll find a lot of things that you would find in Las Vegas. There's an MGM Grand, there's a Wynn, there's a Venetian, all these things. But we've been very lucky to design 2 of the hotels that are not copies of Las Vegas. And one of them is Galaxy. And then the next slide is another one that's also pretty spectacular. This is called Studio City Macau. This opened up a few years after Galaxy, but something cool to point out about this one, that figure 8, and you may know that figure 8, the number 8 is very lucky in Chinese culture. That figure 8 is a Ferris wheel that cost over $50 million to build. But wow. This Ferris wheel that is over 100 meters in the air, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
All right.
And this one is not open yet.
It is. It opened in 2015.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
We celebrated the 5-year anniversary.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned icons because that's something that we're just starting to do more and more. This is a city that we designed. Again, we get approached for some strange things sometimes. And this one, the Chinese government asked us to design a city. Wow. And as part of that city design, we got to do a giant icon. I was working with Gary on this one, and he realized that no one in the world had built a giant circle. There is no giant circle. And you look, when it reflects on the lake, it's actually a giant figure 8, which is wonderful for China. So that was a strange project, but a fun project.
Yeah.
All right. This is something fun that we can talk about later as well. Yeah. And I mentioned we get approached for some interesting things sometimes. And this is one of them. We worked with a group called Insomniac, and you've probably heard of Electric Daisy Carnival. I know that they've had a presence in Mexico. Giant music festivals, raves, where we helped make them more theatrical. And we built giant robots and giant sets and special effects also very quickly. But we can talk more about that later, but that was a fun one.
Okay.
So here's some stuff that's coming up. These are some things that are either under construction or in design now. This is a crazy one. This is over, this is first of all located in Zhuhai, China, which is close to Hong Kong and Macau, though it's part of mainland China. This is the world's largest indoor theme park. As you can see, it was supposed to open this year. It will now open. It was supposed to open in 2020. It will now open in 2021. It's called the Chimlong Marine Science Center, and it is over 4 million square feet of indoor theme park. So it's more than double the current world record holder for indoor theme park. It's going to be crazy.
Totally indoor.
Totally indoor, 100% indoors. Yeah.
Okay.
So Chimlong, that same company, this is another project for them. So they're outside of Disney, they are the #1 theme park operator in China in terms of attendance. So they have a park in Zhuhai, China called Ocean Kingdom. This is going to be the follow-up, kind of the sequel park to that. This will be Forest Kingdom. Even though it says Hidden Kingdom, the name is now Forest Kingdom. And this is located about an hour and a half outside of the big city of Guangzhou, if you're familiar at all with China. And the icon is a giraffe castle, which will be the tallest theme park castle in the world. So kind of wacky, but also pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then let's see what's next. Oh, this is fun. This is our first project ever in the country of Vietnam. This is an aquarium. This will also now open in 2021 instead of 2020. But it's called the Seashell. Turtles are very important in Vietnamese culture. And we always try to be very sensitive to the local culture and local stories of a country. And I'll show you how that affected the way we thought about the Cirque project in Mexico coming.
Okay.
Yeah, so that'll open soon. And then this is another project under construction. This is a small theme park in the city of Busan, Korea. This is also for Lotte. This is a much smaller park than the one in Seoul. It's being realized for under $200 million US. But we can talk about trends later as well if anyone's interested in that. That these smaller, almost boutique theme parks are going to be becoming a trend, we think. For a lot of markets that maybe can't sustain a big multi-billion-dollar investment like Disney or Universal, something like this might make a lot of sense. That's something we did in Indonesia with our Trans Studio theme parks last year. But this will probably open at the end of this year, hopefully. Again, everything's been a little slowed down by COVID a little bit. But this will be a great example of what's possible on a more restrained budget.
Okay.
Okay, so that ends the legacy portion of it. Since we have the presentation up, would it make sense to keep going? Next is Magic Light Parade, and then is Cirque, and then go into questions, or how would you like to do this?
Yeah, it's okay. Actually, what I'm seeing now is that you have a lot of Asian clients.
Yeah.
It's like you are working a lot with those countries. So let's go now with. I will stay here. I would like to. You want me? I will stop sharing for a little.
Okay.
Yeah, for a while, and then we can go back. We can start talking about the. I mean, your work is hilarious. I mean, it's exceptional, and I liked it a lot. I like it a lot. Okay. So, but the entertainment business in the way that is very complex. I mean, you can talk about live entertainment, you can talk about theme parks, you can talk about casinos, you can talk about movies, whatever. So, to decide yourself to take this specialization or this mainstream, like in design and what is can you tell us a little bit more about the entertainment design or design especially made for entertainment? What is the main goal that you have to reach in your work?
In our work, the goal is always to be surprising. It's interesting. All the principles of our company, or most of the principles of our company, come from live theater backgrounds. That seems to be a very common and very natural segue into themed entertainment and entertainment design. It's interesting because if you look at everyone knows the big companies like Walt Disney Imagineering and maybe even Universal Creative, and even those ones, the leaders of those companies for the most part come from live theater. So I think that's why our work is so interesting, is that we bring something different to it. We bring something we can talk about that's really important is and I'm sure there are some people watching that might have interest in being part of the location-based entertainment industry, or theme park design or entertainment design industry. And whenever I'm talking to people who aspire to be part of it, something I say is that it's very important to be aware of the entire entertainment industry and even outside the entertainment industry, because if you only focus on theme parks and you only look at theme parks, then we can only repeat ourselves and just copy ourselves. So it's very important to be very curious and look around at the entire world and read as much as you can, see as much as you can, do as much as you can, because that will inform your work and make your work better. And for example, I talk about theater. All the things happening in theme parks and location-based entertainment right now are largely being informed by live theater trends, including immersive theater trends. Disney's doing it. They're incorporating elements of immersive theater in their new Star Wars lands and their new attractions within the Star Wars lands. Even local parks are doing a tremendous job of this. Like Knott's Berry Farm here in California has an unbelievable immersive theater component during the summer called Ghost Town Alive that is informed by if your audience follows immersive theater at all, they've probably heard of something like Sleep No More in New York and Shanghai. It's that type of attraction, that and Secret Cinema in the UK. This is what's guiding where theme parks are heading now. So it's very important for anyone wanting to be in entertainment to keep your net as wide as possible, to make sure that we don't repeat ourselves, because if we do, we're going to suffocate and the work won't be interesting and it will become irrelevant. So I think that's kind of philosophically how we approach this.
Totally. You have to be creative all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
For example, a client calls you or emails you with an idea.
Yes.
Sure, maybe most of them can come from a recommendation, but what is your first step and process for a design? I mean, when they come to you, what is the first thing that you need to do so you can be sure that you are going to give to the client the perfect thing they're looking for?
The first step is to listen really well, and listen and just let them talk for hours if they want to. Hear everything they want to say. We luckily, because we're a small company, we can have very intimate relationships with our clients. So for every project, we'll have a WeChat, which is the China Messenger service, or a WhatsApp group or something going. And we'll encourage our clients. We'll say, anytime you have an idea, anytime you see a picture of something you like, send it to us, because the more we hear from you, the more we're going to be in sync, and the more we're going to understand your goals for the project. Because generally, especially in Asia, before COVID, I would go to Asia once a month. I have since 2006 for all of our clients to make presentations and to get their feedback. But if you're only seeing them once a month, you don't want to work for a month on something and show up and have it be completely in the wrong direction. So the communication is super critical at the beginning. Then the next step is we'll go away and come up with a lot of ideas, hopefully a couple things that the client hadn't even thought of that they wanted. And it's very frequent that a client will have used a couple firms before they get to us. Very frequently in China or Korea, they'll have gone with a local firm or a low-cost competitor. They won't be happy with what they got, so they'll bite the bullet, so to speak, on hiring us. We're a little bit on the more expensive side, but there's a quality difference tied to that. So we'll come back in a couple weeks and we'll show them lots of rough sketches, usually 3 different approaches at least, of 3 totally different ideas. Some will be a little more simple, some will be a little more complex. And we'll say, now, here is what we talked about. Is this what you want? We had a completely different idea, which is something like this over here. Do you like this? And let them decide, because they know their audience, they know their market. They'll say, this from this idea is great, but we love this from that idea. Can we put them together? Can we mix and match? So the design process is very fluid. It's very collaborative. It's never us showing up and dropping something on the table and saying, here it is, this is what you want. That's not how we or anyone should work. And then we keep going. So the design process, the concept design, which is the first step, usually will last 3 to 4 months. If it's a really big project, sometimes it can last longer than that. It can go on for 8 months. Sometimes we've had some that have gone on for almost 2 years. Mega project like Chimlong Forest Kingdom which has so many complex elements. It has animals, it has rides, it has shows, it has everything all in one. It can take a very long time to develop it. So that's a very quick look at a very complex process, but I hope that gives an idea of kind of how we approach things.
Yeah, and we saw the workflow before.
Yeah,
So if you
yeah.
got to the web page, to the website that they have, you can see in more detail that process.
Yes.
Can we talk now about the EDC Las Vegas? Because as most of our followers are from the live entertainment business, so we would like to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So that was fun. So yeah, Insomniac is the company. It's kind of a funny story. So this was done when it was Gary Goddard Entertainment, or the Goddard Group. The guy who runs Insomniac, Gary gave him the loan to do his first event in Los Angeles back in the 90s. So Pasquale, the founder of Insomniac, never forgot that. And he did these, amazing events for many years, including Electric Daisy Carnival, which is the most famous of all of them. And then around 2013, he decided that he wanted to take the events to the next level, because up until that point, the stages had been beautiful, but they were very simple. They were just, steel truss structures with lights and lasers, but they weren't very theatrical. And I think he was inspired a little bit by the amazing festivals that happen in Europe. I'm sure you've seen Tomorrowland and things like that, which are a lot more theatrical. So he came back to Gary and said, I think I want to do something. I want to take my events to the next level. How do we do this? So the first one that we started on was Electric Daisy Carnival. But this was one where it happened very fast, which is very fun and very stressful, because, you were living it day and night. So I think we started in February and the event was in June. And this was the largest stage ever built in North America. It was over 100 meters long. And then 6 weeks before the event, he realized, and he was right about it, he said, we need an icon for the stage. We need like a central focus. So we came up with a bunch of ideas, and we settled on a giant robot owl, a giant audio animatronic owl. And it had to be designed and built in 6 weeks, which is unheard of, incomprehensible. But our team did it, and it was almost impossible, but we did it, and it turned out really well. This giant robotic owl that maybe some of your, I think has traveled to Mexico, if I'm not mistaken, but it has an 80-foot wingspan, it has video eyes, it's so cool. And then following the success of EDC in Las Vegas in June of that year, we did several more events. We did Beyond Wonderland, where we built a giant caterpillar. We did Nocturnal Wonderland, where we built this giant tree, this giant living tree. There's all giant robots. We did Escape from Wonderland, which is the Halloween event. So those were really neat in that we got to help this great brand, Insomniac, enter their next phase and kind of evolve, which is something that we've been lucky to do with a lot of brands, and that we love doing.
Great. And now let's go to Mexico. You did the Magic Light Parade, which is a little bit, it was like 2000 or something.
2008.
2008. Yeah, I will share the screen so you can talk us about that.
So Magic Light Parade is a very, very special project for me. This is the first project that I was ever kind of solo creative director on. I started at the time GGE in 2003, and really supported Gary on all these projects. But this was the first one where he really let me run with it. So that was it will always hold a special place in my heart because of that. So the story about this project, and this will tie to some of the visuals I'll show you in a second, is Six Flags was going through an evolution in, I think in 2005. It had a new majority shareholder, I believe, named Daniel Schneider, if I recall correctly. And he brought in a great guy named Mark Shapiro to run the company. Mark's background is from Disney, ESPN, but he realized, at Six Flags, and less in Mexico, more in America, he says, the problem is we're not getting the whole family. We're only getting the teenagers. The parents will drop the kids off. They'll give them $20, have fun. Here's a discounted ticket. But Mark knew from Disney, he said, if you can get the whole family, you're going to have a much more robust crowd, a friendly environment, higher per capita spending.
Totally.
So what can we do to get the whole family to come to the park? So he did lots of initiatives like Thomastown with Thomas the Train. And one of them, he wanted to have a parade. So sometimes projects will do design competitions, which we generally won't do, but we thought it'd be fun to work with Six Flags. So they said, well, it's actually funny. Mark Shapiro came to IAAPA, the big convention in Orlando.
Yeah.
He came by our booth. He met with me and Gary, and Gary said, we'd love to work with you. And Mark said, I can't afford you. And Gary laughed and said, well, you know, just give us a shot. Let's see. Let's try. Next time you have something, call me. So a couple months after that, phone rang. Dan Weinberg at Six Flags said, we're doing a competition for a parade. Is this something you might be interested in doing? And we said, sure, let's try it. So the parameters were stacked against us. So when Disney does a parade, even back in 2008, when Disney would do a parade, one float cost $3 million. The total budget for Magic Light Parade is less than half of that for everything. For 5 floats, 80 costumes, music, props, everything is less than one Disney float by half.
Mhm.
So it was very, very challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a big hurdle. But let me show you what we did. I'll kind of take you through the process. So we started out in what we call blue sky creative design, where we come up with some rough ideas. And we said, let's do something completely different from everyone else. Let's suggest that we do a night parade. There was nothing that said it had to be a night parade. Nothing that even suggested it should be a night parade. But we said, you know, we can make something at nighttime look really great. Daytime for $1.5 million, probably not that great. Also, at least in America, nobody stays at Six Flags to the evening. So if we do a great night parade, people will stay longer, they'll have dinner, they'll spend more in the park, they'll buy glow merchandise. So we started doing just some rough inspirational sketches of what a light parade could look like. So Phil Mendez did these beautiful sketches. And go ahead and go through these. These are the very first, and no one's ever seen these before. These are the very first sketches that were done for this project. But you can see, if you're familiar with Magic Light Parade, a lot of these ideas made it through. They look a little bit different, but they made it through to the final version, having the dragon, having the liquid drummers on the front, having the marching guys where the one person's real and the rest are fake, having drummers. So these were the very first pieces of art we did for this project. And then Phil did his version. So then we started to try to figure out what is the sequence of this thing. So it starts out, as you can see, with this big kind of generic fantasy opening, which is bright and happy. Then it gets a little scarier with the dragon and the dark stuff and Batman. And then the next slide. So the idea was a sequence. Let's start you on a high, then take you down a little bit. This float ended up getting cut with Wonder Woman. We combined that with the dragon. And then a little bit more. And then Superman, you can see it evolved a lot past this. In this version, we barely even had Looney Tunes. There's, again, if your audience has seen the parade, you'll remember that Daffy Duck is at the very end to clean it up. So there he is. That's where that started. Mm-hmm. So that was how it started. And then this is the presentation board where us and a few other companies went to New York to the Times Square office of Six Flags and made our pitch. This is what we showed them that got us the project. This is the presentation. So you can see there's the sketches I just showed you. There's reference images around it of similar projects to give you an idea of what it might actually be like in reality. And that's something we would always do is benchmark reference imagery. And everyone does that. That's very common. So that after that presentation, they told us that we had won the job. We won the project. So then we really had to figure it out. We had to figure out what the heck are we doing? So then we got a little more real. You can see the design evolution of something like this. This was the next step. And then after this, on the next one, the next page. Okay, so that's this was the next step. It got a little closer to what you see. There was the Wiggles and there was Looney Tunes and all those things. And then here we are. We enlisted the big guns, as we say, Raul Rodriguez, the famed designer of the Rose Parade here in Pasadena, California, perhaps the greatest parade designer in history. Sadly, he's passed away, so we don't get to work with him or be around him anymore. He's a wonderful, amazing guy, just the would light up any room that he was in. Spectacular guy. I feel very lucky to have collaborated with him on a few projects before he passed away. This was the first one. He did these float designs, which are the final designs for the parade, which are just phenomenal. I mean, looking at these now, 12 years later, 13 years later, they still hold up. They still blow me away. They're still timeless. They don't feel like they've aged at all. So there's a Wonder Woman dragon, Batman in Gotham City. And then the Wiggles. I think in Mexico, it's not the Wiggles, though. I think it was the animals in the park, yeah. And then the finale, which is, of course, Looney Tunes. And ending, of course, as many people remember, with Daffy Duck cleaning up the mess from the parade.
I remember that, yes.
Yeah. So it's so funny because it was such a trial by fire project. And what's funny is you always hear these stories, it was Magic Light Parade the day before it opened was the worst show ever. It wasn't working at all. It was so horrible. It's just, we didn't know what to do. Everyone was in a panic. People who don't smoke were smoking. It was just and then the next day it was Easter weekend 2008. Just for some reason that night, the opening night, everything clicked, everything worked, and the show was electric, and it was successful ever since then.
Okay.
So, yeah, it had a happy ending, though it was very stressful to get there. But yeah, so it's a very special project. And
then, this is the.
Oh, this is funny.
Yeah.
I love how I thought people might get a kick out of this, how unscientific the design process is. So when we were designing the parade, we pushed this thing through Six Flags Mexico because that is the safety envelope for the floats.
Okay.
That's the maximum size of the floats. So literally, we're out there pushing this thing through the park, seeing what trees it hits, seeing what buildings it hits, because if it hits a tree or a building, that tree or building gets moved. So I love that people think that this stuff happens by magic or it's all very scientific. No, it's us pushing this giant PVC pipe structure through Six Flags Mexico when the park is closed.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are some finished photos of the parade. So the parade ended up being a crazy success. Of course, it opened in Mexico first, and then went on to open at many other Six Flags parks, and was a great success everywhere it played.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that's the Magic Light Parade, and we are going to go now for the how about the Cirque du Soleil theme park in Puerto Vallarta? Let's go to that one.
Yes, the legend.
Yeah, the legend that we know that it's not longer the Cirque du Soleil's park.
Yes.
But can you tell a little bit more about the process, and then we talk about what is going to be the next theme park? Yeah.
Well, the good news is Cirque du Soleil is still involved with the project in a different capacity. The project, that we started developing in 2013, Vedanta, it is so much bigger and more ambitious than what we designed. So it's going to be pretty sensational what they're doing now. Cirque du Soleil is still involved. Legacy Entertainment is not involved at the moment, but Cirque is doing a dinner show, and I believe that's public knowledge. I hope it is. They're going to do a dinner show that's under construction right now. Many of your audience members have hopefully seen Hoya and Vedanta's resort in Riviera Maya, which is, even though it's smaller than the shows in Vegas, it's one of Cirque's best shows of all time. And the one in Puerto Vallarta, Nueva Vallarta, is going to be even better than Hoya, as I understand it. So it's going to be great. It's still going to turn out really well. It's a shame that this wasn't built for me. Just, it's my baby. So I'll always be sad that it didn't get built exactly this way. But what's being built is fantastic. And there's still a chance that we'll see some of these designs realized somewhere else in the world someday.
Okay.
But I did bring a sample that's never been seen before to show your audience one of the unique attractions that was planned for this park. And it's also a great example of the way that we integrate local culture, in this case, Mexican culture, into our projects.
Okay, great.
So the next slide, let me tell you the logic behind the design of this resort.
I'm sorry, I'm having troubles with my internet.
Okay, well, I'll tell the story, and if it comes up, great, and if not, we'll figure it out. So many of you have been to Puerto Vallarta.
Oh, I'm sorry, Taylor. I just lost my internet, but I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Okay. Yeah.
So the philosophy, we're still good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Wonderful. The philosophy of the design of the resort, and if you've been to Puerto Vallarta, you know this to be true. There is so much to do in the daytime, and there is nothing to do at nighttime.
Yeah.
So we came up with an idea to develop basically a theme park that only opens up at nighttime. And if you're able to go to the next slide of the presentation, there's an image of what this section looked like. There we go. Perfect. It's coming through, I think. There it is. Perfect. Okay. So at the very bottom of the image was this thing called the Moon Gate, and it has these giant doors like in Jurassic Park or King Kong that during the day would be closed. And then at sunset, there'd be a big ceremony with lots of cast members, and the giant doors would open and let guests into this theme park for the first time each day. So it's only open at night. So you see there's rides, there's a show, there's lots of shops and restaurants and interesting entertainment experiences. And then there were two really unique new kinds of shows. And I mentioned how immersive theater, is informing theme park design and entertainment design. This is a great example of that. So we said, what if we do, and this is a little bit inspired by Xochimilco. What if we do a Cirque du Soleil show on a boat, a show that you ride through on a boat?
Wow.
So it's not like a normal theme park ride where you're going through for 3 minutes or 4 minutes. This is a ride where you're on a boat for an hour going through this magical forest. So let me show you how that would pan out. So this is the entrance. This is the attraction was called Nocturnia, and the image loading is like an explorer's club. This is the entrance to the attraction, but it's not your typical experience where you'd come in and get in line. No, it's like a safari lodge, but a fantasy one. So if you go to the next image, you'll see that instead of having a traditional queue line, this is like a bar or a lounge. So you can go and get a cool, fun, weird cocktail. If you've been to Hoya, you know all the creative, amazing food concepts they've come up with.
Yeah.
So here you just chill, you just relax and enjoy yourselves and drink and eat. And then eventually you'll hear your group called, time to go. And what makes this work is it's a very low capacity attraction. It's like purchasing a ticket to a show. The attraction, whereas one ride at Disney can do 1 or 2 or 3,000 people an hour, this would do basically 1,000 people a night. So very low capacity, higher ticket price. So when it's your turn, this guide comes and gets you and leads you into the forest. You follow him into the forest, and then you discover these boats. You get on these boats, and you embark into this forest. And it's a real forest. It's not like a theme park forest. It's a real forest that we grow. And the cool thing about this attraction that made it really memorable, and if we go to the next one, for the big reveal, I think, is this, oh no, well, first, okay, this is a view of the boat.
Okay.
One idea we explored was that it's that we'd have a little canteen, a little pack that you take along with you that would have some snacks in it that you'd eat and drink some different things throughout the experience.
Okay.
It's a very limited capacity boat. All right. So you go into the forest. The forest is dark and quiet, and then it comes to life in the next slide. You'll see all the forest at nighttime. All these giant flowers bloom around you. You would smell these giant flowers. And then you go around the corner and we'd have the big reveal, the big, you're eating a flower. You can actually eat a real flower.
Okay.
This scene, that was pretty cool. So all 5 senses were stimulated on this journey.
Okay.
Here we go. So the big concept is that this is the forest where Mexico's alebrijes come from. So where do they come from? They come from here. This is the place.
Okay.
So as you go through the forest, you're going to encounter dozens of these alebrijes. And they're going to be, some are done by simple robotics, and some are puppets controlled by live performers. And we worked with the next slide, I think, will show you some samples of the designs.
Mm-hmm.
And again, thank you for going through these slides. Yeah, okay, these are great. So we worked with the greatest puppet designer in the world, Michael Curry, on the designs for this project. He did the puppets for the Lion King musical, Disney's Lion King, if you've ever seen that, along with every other great show in history.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing, gave him the prompt. If this is the forest where the alebrijes come from, what does that look like and how does it work? So some of these have people inside of them. Some of these have people dressed all in black moving them. Some of them barely move at all. They just have, there's like robots.
Okay.
So as you go through the forest, you see these different creatures. And then on the next slide, what makes this attraction so special is because we're not in a hurry, there's no high throughput, we can have these interactive moments with these creatures. So here's a moment like this giraffe. This is a puppet. So, when there's a robot, you can't get too close to the robot. With this puppet, the puppeteer could bring the head down with a stick, and you were actually able to feed the giraffe. The giraffe had a vacuum inside of its mouth, so it was going to be able to suck these berries that it likes out of your hand. So there are these interactive moments throughout the ride that you can't normally do in a theme park that were so imaginative. It's so cool.
Wow.
So yeah, going through these, let's see, what's next?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, excuse me.
Here it is
a rainstorm, but the rainstorm, you won't get wet as you go through it. It's like if you ever seen the Rain Room art installation, there would be a clearing around you as you go through the rainstorm. This is one where your host collects dew, or a sap from a magical tree or a flower, and everyone can taste it like a honey to see what it tastes like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This one is the same one.
Okay. Oh, sorry, there's a duplicate. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then.
Yeah, what comes next? Oh, this is fun. These are mimic frogs. So you see the person on the boat is making a sound, and the frogs would repeat the sound back. So whatever you'd say, the frogs would say back, but in their kind of in their sound. And then this was the kind of key art image for this experience, what it would look and feel like.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really one of the coolest concepts that we've ever done, and I'm looking for a home for it. So I'm hoping we can find a home to do this someday because
it's mind blowing. This is like a great experience for everyone.
There's nothing else like it. There's it's like a show that you ride through. What a cool idea. It'll happen someday. These ideas are too good not to happen, I think. Mm-hmm. Oh, and then this was the finale scene. So for the finale, you would go in the middle of a fountain show. So you'd have fountains around you, fire around you, maybe some Cirque acrobats doing something simple, but that was the big finale scene.
Do you have can you share us like the budget or like what was needed to create an experience like this one?
It's a tricky question. To give you an idea of the budgets of these things, like talking about rides, when Universal does a Transformers ride, if you've been to Universal Hollywood or Florida or Singapore where they have the Transformers ride, that's a $90 million ride. If you look at the new Star Wars ride at Disneyland, the Rise of the Resistance, that's over $400 million US. We don't usually get to work with budgets like that, our company, because once you get outside of Disney and Universal, very few companies can afford big budget attractions like that. So that's why I mentioned the Magic Light Parade. That was a $1.5 million parade that we do our best. We have to be creative with our resources to make it look as good as a Disney parade, even though it'll never be the same technical quality. Hopefully it has the same impact. So I mentioned the Transformers ride, $90 million. Last year, we opened 2 dark rides in Indonesia where Transformers was the benchmark from our client. Our client in Indonesia said, my audience, the best thing they might have ever seen is the Transformers ride at Universal Studios Singapore. Since all the people who will be coming here, that's where they can go. So I need something as good as that. But you have $20 million US to do something as good as the $90 million ride in Singapore. So that forces us to be very creative in our solutions. But we can be, and we'll always come up with good ideas that maybe don't cost as much as they would at Disney or Universal. So I mentioned that I'm not sure what that boat ride would have cost for Cirque. I don't recall the number. But generally, we have to work with budgets that are 20 to 30% that of an equivalent project at Disney or Universal. That's quite typical.
And do you have that in mind when you do the design, right? I mean,
yes, I think at first we'll be a little crazy. We'll be a little unrestrained. We'll come up with lots of big ideas, crazy ideas, because sometimes those lead to really good smaller ideas. So for the first couple of weeks, we'll go nuts. We'll come up with every idea.
okay.
But then we'll get excited by something because maybe that started out as an indoor ride. We said, well, it doesn't have to be indoors. It could be outdoors, and we'll save half the budget or more, or doing a real forest. So we'll start out a little wacky. What are all the ideas that are possible? And then refine it and then hone it down. And then, as I'm sure you mentioned this, your audience is largely based in live entertainment. They know that moment where reality hits and you have to make some very difficult decisions. That happens on every project. But, sometimes that leads to better decisions.
Okay. Then, well, I think that one in Indonesia was one of your most challenging projects. But do you have any other challenging projects you had at Legacy for live entertainment or for theme parks or a casino?
Two of them. One is the Magic Light Parade, because the time frame was so tight. Six Flags came to us originally, so Mexico was not supposed to be the first one. The first one was supposed to be New Jersey, and Pepe, who runs Six Flags Mexico, was all supposed to get so Six Flags New Jersey was supposed to get it for the American Memorial Day holiday weekend in May, end of May, almost June. And Pepe from Six Flags Mexico said, that's way too late for me. If I need it by Easter, I need it by March, and if I can't have it by March, I don't want it. So we had to figure out how to do it in like 4 months, which was insane because the way Six Flags fiscal year worked, they couldn't even pay us till January. So we had to get all of our vendors working without money, which is unheard of. But I think we all trusted Six Flags because they're a major brand. In hindsight, that's a bit crazy. And we did it. We pulled it off, barely. And then the other one, funny enough, is also a parade. It was a parade we did for Lotte World in Korea. It was kind of the evolution of Magic Light Parade. We wouldn't have gotten the job without Magic Light Parade. It's called Let's Dream. It's at Lotte World. It was a $8 million light parade. But same thing, we only had 6 months, and I think we were a bit too ambitious. It turned out well, but maybe we were too ambitious because we did all sorts of things that have never been done in a parade before. We did holograms. The biggest one was drones. We were the first theme park show ever to use drones. It's a technology that is now matured and is now reliable. In 2014, it was not at all. We were making it up. And literally, we had spent millions of dollars in this drone system. The guys from Germany are there setting it up at Lotte World. And like a day before opening, they come up to me and they said, it's not going to work. Sorry. The most we've ever done is 8 drones, 6 or 8. And we had 25. They said, you know what? Sorry, it's not going to work. I said, you have to make it work. So the quick ending of the story is I said, you have to do something. You have to, tomorrow's the opening. It doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be something. Just do something. So the moment of the show happens, the drones lift up, they go up in the air, and it's a big opening moment of the show. And then for some reason, the drones, they form the shape of a fish. For no reason, it has nothing to do with the show. Fish. And they're floating in the middle of Lotte World. But people, they didn't care because it was cool. It was new. Nobody had ever seen drones before. It made no sense. But it took probably 6 months or so to really get that system working well. But it worked well enough for the opening that we weren't completely humiliated. It was cool and new enough that everyone liked it. But that was a funny moment. And then we had one night where they went haywire and they shot all over Lotte World, and the audience, they were hitting them like beach balls. It was terrible. But it was a big lesson in using new technologies that I'm not sure I'll ever replicate.
You need more rehearsal for that kind of thing.
Yeah, we did, yes.
And then we need to talk about the COVID-19 because it's something that has changed everything. Yeah. So this thing canceled or drastically changed all of our projects in the entertainment business. How did you experience this process back in March when everything turned off? And how did you survive that process, which we still live in?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's been so difficult for everyone, and everyone's making it work for them in different ways. So for our company, Legacy, we got hit early on, earlier basically than everyone else, because as you see, we're so focused on the Asian market. With 90% or more of our work being in Asia, we got killed back in January.
Yeah,
So even before, yeah, it was so difficult. And luckily, everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's been so flexible in how they get paid and when they get paid and the amount of money they'll work for, because everyone just has a shared goal of getting through this and getting to the other side. So fortunately, I'm happy to say that we survived. Being a smaller company has helped with that, because we didn't have great overhead. We have a nice building. We don't have a gigantic building like some companies do. So that really helped us and made us agile and flexible. Again, the good news is our model means we don't need that many projects to survive. So that's been helpful. But because we were first to get hit, it also means that we're first to recover. So the good news is our markets have largely come back online. We're probably at 60 to 70% of our normal workload right now. We're doing projects in Indonesia, Korea, China right now. They've made it work for them. Everyone's just making it work as best they can. It's like COVID never happened. But I really believe, here in North America and Mexico and America, as we're coming out of this, I think, this is going to be the recovery year. 2021 is going to be the year to just get our footing back. But I think 2022 is going to be the record year to end all years. I think we're going to see performance like we've never seen before, because there is such a pent-up demand to do things. I don't know, many of you watching have kids. I mean, can you not wait to take them to a theme park, to take them to the theater? I know I can't, and everyone I know is I think, and Disney is backing this up. They just said they're expecting record attendance, record spending in 2022. And I don't think that will be isolated to Disney. I think that'll be everywhere. I think theaters are going to be packed. Hotels are going to have record occupancy. I think we're going to be coming into a really great time.
Yeah, sure.
Mm.
And we're out of time now, so we need to close this as soon as possible. But I need to ask you one last thing.
Please.
What will be your top recommendation for anyone looking to pursue a career in the entertainment design business?
Again, the first one I touched on a little bit already is be as broad in your curiosity as possible, because inspiration will come from unexpected places. And make it happen for yourself is the other piece, because no one's going to come to you and decide what's right for you. No one's going to come to you and make it happen for you. You have to make it happen for yourself. The people that succeed are the ones who are out there establishing communication, establishing relationships. If you're interested in theme parks specifically, I would really recommend coming to IAAPA in Orlando in November. Of course, it was canceled this year. Hopefully, it will be back on this coming year. Orlando is easy to get to from everywhere. And that is the best way to understand how this industry works. It's a great place to meet people and make friendships and make connections. And frankly, I got my job just because on a whim, I sent Gary Goddard a note and said, I would love to meet you and talk about the themed entertainment industry. And look what that led to. So, if you go to IAAPA and go to booths and say, hey, I want to learn about the industry and how to get in and how I might apply myself, what's the harm? What can happen? They can say no, 3 might say no, 2 might say yes. So put yourself out there and make it happen for yourself. And again, just be curious, and never stop being curious.
Great. Well, this has been an amazing interview, an amazing chat. I thank you so much for this amazing presentation. Really, it's just mind blowing for all of us. And I hope we can continue in touch with you and continue knowing more about your work and all of the work at Legacy Entertainment. We lost some of our followers because we couldn't go live to Facebook, but this presentation, this video will stay at YouTube, and then we will share it to everyone. But
Perfect.
Thank you very much, Taylor, for your time. And is there any conclusion would you like to make right at this point?
Just if anyone is interested to learn more about themed entertainment on social media platforms, especially we're very active on Facebook, follow us, because a couple times a week we'll post really interesting things, construction photos from around the world, never before seen concept art, ideas, things that never got built, little tidbits, industry insights. So follow us, follow all the other companies, learn as much as you can, and just take it all in and enjoy it.
Great. Well, thank you everyone to be live with us, and we will continue with the next XLive the next week. So see you later. Thank you, Taylor.
Much I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.